Perhaps those of you who've heard the news already, my colleague Dominic LeBlanc, Minister of Fisheries and Oceans, and responsible for the Canadian Coast Guard, announced a new $325 million Atlantic Fisheries Fund that will help transform and invigorate the fish and seafood sector in our country. Since taking office, our federal government, along with the 4 Atlantic premiers, and we've been working really hard on this, have been working to put this region on a path to economic prosperity. Last July in Prince Edward Island, we launched the Atlantic Growth Strategy, and the team is comprised of the 4 premiers of Atlantic Canada and the 4 federal ministers. It's an ambitious pan-Atlantic initiative that will help us tackle some of the deep-rooted economic challenges facing our region. We plan to do this by harnessing our competitive advantages and enhancing opportunities for inclusive economic growth for everyone. That isn't something that has happened very often. We tend to work in isolation. We tend not to be collaborative on opportunities. And we've decided as a region, it's a golden opportunity for us to have 4 Liberal governments in the Atlantic provinces and have a federal Liberal government. So we're going to accomplish what we need to as a region. This is the time to do it. One of the areas that we are focusing on is the future of our commercial and aquaculture fisheries. Together, we want to grow this sector in a way that is economically prosperous, environmentally responsible, and globally competitive. In Atlantic Canada, commercial fishing employs approximately 58,000 people in stable, good-paying jobs that support the middle class and help grow the economy. In 2015, the landed value of Canada's Atlantic commercial fisheries was $2.8 billion. In 2016, Newfoundland and Labrador was the country's 4th largest exporter of fish and seafood, valued at $1 billion. The challenge before us is to determine how we can help this sector adapt and innovate to realize even more opportunities for our fish and seafood sectors. The approach taken by the Atlantic Fisheries Fund is flexible. The Government of Canada will be working with provinces to understand their priorities and ensure that unique and shared challenges are addressed. The creation of this new fund will encourage new and innovative ways to harvest, add value to processing, and deliver high-quality, sustainable source fish and seafood from the region's wild capture and aquaculture fisheries. This, in turn, will help develop the Atlantic sector so it can better meet market demands for our world-class products. Partnerships, innovation, and knowledge sharing are the principles of the Atlantic Fisheries Fund. By making strategic investments in new technologies and infrastructures, we will be able to improve the quality, sustainability, and marketability of our fish and seafood. This type of innovation will help improve the sector's capacity to access and develop new markets. We also expect this investment will increase our scientific knowledge of the marine environment in the Northwest Atlantic Ocean and the impact changing ocean conditions are having on fish species, stocks, communities, and fishers. This information will prove to be invaluable when it comes to the long-term sustainable management of our fisheries. Now, as is the case with any ambitious project, the Atlantic Fisheries Fund will require strong cooperation and coordination between the federal government, the provinces, industry, the labor organizations, Indigenous groups, and communities. Our government is already working with the provinces to seek their partnership in the fund and their input into its development. We will then look to engage with the private sector and First Nations so all partners in this work are able to leverage and maximize their investments. Despite efforts by previous Conservative governments to get the Harper government to deliver on a $280 million fund, we all know it didn't happen. In fact, Premier Dunderdale held a news conference to announce the commitment by the federal government without any representation by the federal government in attendance. So in forming government, as Liberal MPs, we undertook to find out exactly what was committed and why it wasn't delivered on. And according to the Minister responsible for Newfoundland and Labrador in the Harper government, Rob Moores, who was involved in negotiating the fund with Newfoundland and Labrador, he was quoted as saying, "The fund was always intended to compensate specific fishing processing job losses," saying it was never intended as a blank check. In fact, losses would have to be demonstrated, and the money would flow over 3 years. Now, for the 7 Liberal MPs, who aren't shy by any stretch of the imagination, representing Newfoundland and Labrador, this wasn't good enough, from our perspective, to support the renewal of the fishery and aquaculture sectors in our province. More importantly, our conclusion was, why would we settle for $280 million? We knew from talking to fish harvesters, the industry, the provincial government, the union, and others, that we would need to move to deliver on initiatives that would result in sustainable economic growth for the fish and seafood sectors, which is integral to our economy and social and cultural fabrics of hundreds of coastal communities in Newfoundland and Labrador and thousands of similar communities throughout the country. That is why, having been in government for only 15 months, the federal government has invested approximately $3.3 billion in our province in that short time frame. This includes funding of $238.5 million in fisheries, oceans, and the Coast Guard. As part of the government's new investments in ocean science, we are hiring 135 new research scientists, biologists, oceanographers, and technicians across the country at a cost of $197 million, up to 18 of which will be in Newfoundland and Labrador. 6 new scientists have already been hired in our province. And in November 2016, the Prime Minister announced the Ocean Protection Plan, a $1.5 billion investment that contributes to our commitment to protecting the country's oceans. Minister LeBlanc made the same announcement simultaneously here in Newfoundland and Labrador. That plan improves marine safety and responsible shipping, protects Canada's marine environment, and creates stronger partnerships with Indigenous and coastal communities. The plan meets or exceeds international standards and is supported by commitments to Indigenous co-management, environmental protections, and science-based standards, marine environment, and improving search and rescue capacity in Newfoundland and Labrador, including the Marine Rescue Subcenter. This time last week, I joined my colleagues here to announce $18.2 million for the new Coast Guard regional headquarters in St. John's. We invested $1.9 million to support additional science research and monitoring in Newfoundland and Labrador. And we are also supporting the Canadian Healthy Oceans Network, based out of Memorial University, with $1 million, which will provide researchers with access to specialized equipment and laboratory space. So today our government is looking to the future of this industry and taking the necessary steps to transform and drive innovation, so this sector is positioned for even greater success. We are committed as a federal Liberal government, along with my colleagues, to ensure that we are going to deliver what needs to be delivered to make sure we have a sustainable fishery for our province and for the country as a whole. Thank you.